Let's go back to our class A to cover a little more on constructors and other things. So we had class A with int I, char ch. We had void set, which might be taking an int parameter here. And we had couple of constructors here. Likewise. Now let's look at this here in the set method. We have a variable called I, which is an instance variable. Because how would you access this? You create an instance of this class. When you create an instance of this class, a memory is allocated for these variables. Okay? And in order to access this variable, you just access it with I out here or object.I. Right? You want to specify this instance variable I is going to take the value of the parameter. So you actually write it like this, right? I is equal to x. What if this argument variable is also I and your instance variable is also I? In that case, you would have to say I is equal to I here. Now which I is equated to which I is the question. Now when I say I out here, it always takes the immediate variable I, that is the local variable, the parameterized variable I. So the parameter variable I is being equated to itself. It's not an error here. But what you require here is the parameter variable I value should be equated to an instance variable I. Now how do I know which instance variable? Which instance variables I that we are talking about? Now, in order to call the set method, you will make use of an object variable of this class and call the set method by passing the parameter. Now to refer to whatever the object variable I have used in order to invoke the method, if I have to refer to that object variable inside that method, we use the this reference. So you need to say this dot I is equal to I, and the this reference always holds the current or always holds the reference to the current object variable which was used to invoke the method. So in this case, this reference is referring to A1. So when you say this dot I, you are now referring to A1's I variable, whose value is being equated with the local variable I. Similarly, when you talk about constructors of a class, when you have overloaded constructors, you might end up repeating the instructions in each of the constructors, which you would want to avoid because rewriting the same code, right? So how do you avoid writing the same instructions again and again? What you could do is write the instructions in the parameterized most constructor, for example, okay, and invoke from the other constructors the parameterized most constructor. So how do you invoke one constructor of a class from another constructor of the same class? To do this, you use the this call. Likewise, the this call has to be the very first instruction in a constructor. If you want, you can have any other instructions after the this call. So what's happening here is that the common instructions are available here, plus if you have anything else more, that also gets executed, so you have to be careful about how you're going to write this. Okay, but the basic idea is you can have in a basic constructor or some general place where in general constructor the common instructions, and those instructions can be executed for every constructor by calling the this call at the beginning of every constructor to execute it. So when you call the this call, it comes to this constructor, executes this, and comes back here further to execute the other instructions. But if you want to have both the this call and the super call, it would not be possible, because both of them will have to be the very first statement in the constructor. You can either have this or the super. So in these two constructors, we can have the this call, and you can place the super call here if required. Right? So this is about the this reference and the this call to the self constructor. So till now we looked at some of the object-oriented features of any object-oriented language. And of course there are certain keywords which are specific to Java.